Hi, I'm Samuel Jardine, a research analyst with London Politica. This is the first of a two-part video series exploring CANZUK. This first episode will look at what it actually is and how much support it has. In part 2, we'll be looking at the benefits, the challenges and the viability of it, as well as including that all-important bibliography. CANZUK, standing for Canada, Australia, New Zealand and the United Kingdom, is a developing political concept surrounding some form of close economic cooperation and free trade, some relaxation of immigration rules and closer collaboration on security between these nations. It's a concept that has been kicking around for quite some time, but has slowly increased in prominence since the 2016 Brexit vote and the rise of America First under Trump, which, despite Biden's shift, has affected perceptions on the stability of being too reliant on US support in a multipolar world. Unlike the idea of an Anglosphere, popularised among certain political niches in the early 2000s, CANZUK has actually moved beyond simply being an idea promoted by think tanks or certain media outlets to actually receiving political interest from individual MPs and whole parties. However, its attraction and influence as an idea varies between the concerned states, and it by no means is mainstream in any of them yet. So it's a concept whose level of advocacy is worth keeping an eye on, especially as public polling already shows a growing majority of people in all four nations support a CANZUK union, with freedom of movement between its nations. So what exactly are the details of CANZUK? Well, there are a few competing visions of it depending upon country or organisation. The one that we'll pay the most attention to is CANZUK International. It's the biggest of all the groups out there, and it's the model that think tanks and political supporters adhere to. The big difference between CANZUK International and other groups like CANZUK Union is that the former does not promote the political union aspects of the latter. Support for a political union is something of an outlier in CANZUK circles anyway. CANZUK.org takes CANZUK International's lead on specifically eschewing political union, noting that they believe in the independence of Canada, Australia, New Zealand and the United Kingdom, and have no desire to encroach on each nation's autonomy. The official CANZUK International campaign was founded in 2015. It identifies 4 core aims it hopes to see implemented that are primarily economic, but also culturally and socially motivated. The latter they deem as providing the basis for the success of the former. Number 1, freedom of movement. It hopes for reciprocal migration agreements between all 4 states on the Trans-Tasman arrangement model that currently exists between Australia and New Zealand. This agreement, signed in 1973, allows for free movement of Australian and New Zealand citizens between each other's states and comes with residency and work rights. CANZUK International notes that the free travel area is essential for the successful open market it hopes to create for the 4 nations, as well as fostering solidarity among, and I quote, 4 kindred peoples. Number 2, free trade. A multilateral free trade agreement between the 4 nations with customs, duties and other barriers to commerce removed, as well as the mutual recognition of skills and qualifications is desired. They argue this would allow the 4 nations to better deal with trading partners like the USA, China, India and the European Union, and would for the 4 nations give employers a wider skilled labour pool and employees more opportunities across the globe. Number 3, foreign policy. They hope to promote greater cooperation amongst CANZUK states in its foreign policy, defence and intelligence sharing. And number 4, constitutional affairs. CANZUK states are noted as sharing a monarchy, a symbol of their common heritage and shared parliamentary traditions. CANZUK International argues that the English-speaking countries which have retained the monarchy have been far more successful in avoiding civil unrest than their republican counterparts, and attributes this to the role of the Crown. It hopes to expand the institution's influence and use vice-regal representatives and judiciary amongst the 4 states to collaborate on constitutional issues. CANZUK's founder has noted that the grouping works because all participant nations share similar values and share a, and I quote, common ancestry through historical and familial bonds. CANZUK International argues further that this common background and the similar number of English speakers, similar political frameworks, life expectancies, and so lifestyle and consumer choices, economic development and the unemployment levels between Canada, the UK, Australia and New Zealand make them perfect for successfully participating in a shared open market and implicitly having similar foreign policy aims. However, because of the emphasis on the shared cultural and social similarities as being the key to success of the concept, critics have accused CANZUK of being xenophobic and racist as a concept. CANZUK International's answer to this is to highlight that the EU is a majority Caucasian bloc based on concepts of a European culture and identity, and that CANZUK members are in fact multicultural societies. Duncan Bell, a reader at the University of Cambridge, and Sjerdan Vutavec, an associate professor at the University of Ottawa, highlight that the fierce criticism and counter-criticism of CANZUK from the angle of race is expected due to how CANZUK, despite being different in structure from former imperial concepts such as the Imperial Federation, still shares the same historic thread and so troubling baggage of being focused on an Anglo grouping. and so will elicit strong vocal reactions no matter how much supporters of Kanzuk might try and distance themselves. This turns Kanzuk into a politically partisan concept. This is a problem for its political support. Kanzuk, while being broadly popular with the public and getting the support of think tanks like the Bruges Group and Adam Smith Institute, more importantly for its development needs to gain political converts. So far, there is varying support. Kanzuk's most prominent success so far is its conversion of the Canadian Conservative Party, who at Erin O'Toole's behest in 2018 made Kanzuk a party policy, fulfilling O'Toole's personal commitment as leader to pursue the policy. O'Toole has promised publicly that within the first 100 days of his government he would establish a working group to set about attempting to make Kanzuk a reality. Polling has the Canadian Conservatives currently in opposition, between 3 and 5% behind Trudeau's minority Liberal government. So it's a feasible reality, though by no means a certain one. The UK Conservatives, currently in government, are broadly behind it, though not with a specific reference to Kanzuk in public speeches. Boris Johnson made reference to the group as a natural partnership during his tenure as Foreign Secretary in 2018, and is pursuing a similar Kanzuk-orientated policies approach, attempting to negotiate reciprocal visa-free work and travel with Australia, for instance, and pursue ever closer bonds. A more specific and direct reference to Kanzuk can be found in the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Kanzuk, which was set up in 2020 to, and I quote, encourage interest in the political concept of Kanzuk. In New Zealand, political support is far less established for Kanzuk. The only party to have officially endorsed Kanzuk is ACT, the Association of Consumers and Taxpayers, a right-wing party who has undergone a revival in the 2020 elections to become New Zealand's joint third largest party. New Zealand, due to its utilisation of mixed member proportional representation, is governed by a series of coalitions, and so it's likely ACT could become a junior party to a national party-led coalition if the latter is able to reverse its electoral decline at the expense of the Labour government. And last but not least, Australia. Political support for Kanzuk in Australia is thin on the ground. To date, only 2 Liberal senators have voiced support. In fact, in 2020, the Australian Liberal government rejected the UK's offer of visa-free work and travel between the two countries, a key component of the Kanzuk concept. If Kanzuk is to get off the shelf anytime soon, it will need to increase its tangible political support across both sides of the political divide in all 4 nations. Currently, the public support is there for it in all 4 constituent nations, but if there's no political will, and if politicians are not interested in it, it will remain an idea that's merely a concept for quite some time to come.